Sneaking it in at the end of my workday at least. But I wanted to jump on and continue a conversation that we started around assisted reproduction and surrogacy, which is what I do in my legal practice. I'm a surrogacy attorney, so that means that I work with people or individuals who are growing their family with the help of someone else. And it just occurred to me after I got some comments after my last video that there's some people who are following along with us who have absolutely no clue what any of this means, but they thought it was fascinating, so they were following along. And it made me realize that I did kind of jump right into the conversation as though whoever's watching already has an eye towards growing their family through surrogacy. So I'll back up really quickly and just cover some basics about what surrogacy is, because some people are like, surrogacy, what is surrogacy in the first place? And pardon me if you hear some noise in the background. I have some stuff being built in my office, some desks and stuff. So anyway, surrogacy. What in the world is surrogacy? Surrogacy, in its simplest form, is the act of a woman carrying a child for someone else. The idea is to carry the child to full term and deliver the child and give the beautiful baby to another person or persons. So that's, in a nutshell, in the simplest form, that's what surrogacy is. Now, surrogacy takes two basic forms, and one of them is called traditional surrogacy, and the other is called gestational surrogacy. Traditional surrogacy, which has all but fallen by the wayside, I would probably say 98.9% of the cases I deal with and have dealt with in the last handful of years have only been gestational surrogacy. But traditional surrogacy, just to give you an idea of what it is, it's when the woman who is carrying the baby is also the person who provided the egg that created the embryo that she's carrying. So in a traditional surrogacy, the surrogate is genetically related to the baby she's carrying. She genetically is the maternal link. Whether she's donating her eggs and that baby's going to belong to another set of parents, or whether she's not, she's genetically related to the child. In gestational surrogacy, it's different though. In gestational surrogacy, the surrogate is not related to the child she is carrying. She's not genetically connected to the child. The egg for the embryo that was created was either retrieved from the person who is going to be the mother of the child. We call that the intended mother. So the egg was either retrieved from the intended mother or from some other egg donor, some other woman who donated her eggs. So that egg was taken, you know the drill, sperm fertilized the egg and created an embryo. That embryo was transferred into the uterus of the gestational surrogate or the gestational carrier. And that's what surrogacy is in a nutshell. So if you're following along and you have absolutely no clue, hopefully you have a little bit of a better understanding. So surrogates come into play when there's an intended parent who can't carry a child to term. If that's the case, there's a health reason. That's another thing I'll say really quickly is that a lot of people think, especially when they think about celebrity cases, that the celebrity just didn't want to get stretch marks, or they didn't want to bother with carrying their own child. I don't know any reproductive endocrinologists, any fertility doctors who would do what we call cosmetic surrogacy, where they just put another woman's life at risk to carry someone's baby if there's no medical need for it, if there's no medical necessity for it. So that's a common myth that people think is the case, that, oh, this celebrity didn't want to carry her baby, so she got a surrogate. Well, no, there needs to be a medical necessity. So anyway, hopefully you have a better idea of what surrogacy is in a nutshell. I'll jump back into the conversation that we were having yesterday about my methodology, my framework for surrogacy. And I said, when you're approaching the surrogacy process, there's three main topics or three main ideas that you need to have a handle on. You need to understand these before you start the process, before you jump down the surrogacy path, make sure you at least have an understanding of these things, because these are going to be prevalent themes throughout your surrogacy process. And so I call them my 3 T's to surrogacy, or 3 T's for surrogacy. I think I change it every single time I say it, but it's something like 3 T's. I just like the way that sounds. 3 T's for surrogacy. And I said that the 3 T's are your team, terms, and tact. And when you have all of those coming together, that's what creates the ability for you to walk home out of the hospital with your beautiful baby right there in the middle. So yesterday we covered team, and please know that this is not an in-depth course on surrogacy. All I'm doing is giving you the 30,000-foot view, the bird's eye picture of some of the things that are going to go into a surrogacy journey. So we split up team yesterday, and I said you've got to select your squad, you need to assess their approach, and you need to recognize their role. So let's look at terms today. The terms around the surrogacy process, and man, are there terms flying all around the entire process. And you have to have a handle on exactly what those terms are and where they're going to pop up, so that you know what to look out for. So let's talk about the terms in a surrogacy arrangement. And also, we can really highlight 3 main themes here as well. So if I'm looking at the terms of a surrogacy arrangement, I would say that the first thing you want to do is to define the details. Define the details. Define the details. And that manifests in a number of different ways. This one little idea, this one section in the idea of terms could take a 2-hour conversation. This is probably the main thing that clients want to talk to me about when we're on a consultation or when we're starting the process. They want to know, what do I need to put in a contract with my surrogate? What do I need to do to protect my genetic material in the event that I die, or I'm incapacitated, or my spouse and I divorce? So there's tons of ways that the details manifest in a surrogacy arrangement, but whatever you do, you want to make sure that you define those details. And talk to your service professional about what that entails, but just know that every detail of the process needs to be defined, and it needs to be captured and recorded. So the first thing is define the details. The second thing I'd say is ensure that you're insured. So ensure you're insured. And this term of the surrogacy process really plays out more with regards to your surrogate, but it also falls in your hands too if you're an intended parent embarking on the process. One of the things that you consider when you're even choosing a surrogate is, does she already have health insurance? And will her health insurance cover this pregnancy, even though she's carrying it as a surrogate and not carrying it for herself? If the surrogate is already insured, and if her insurance covers this surrogacy pregnancy, then that is going to drastically cut down on the costs that you're going to have to come out of pocket for with regards to her medical care. Because rest assured, she's taking on the physical burden and risk of the surrogacy process. So as an intended parent, you're taking on the financial burden and risk of the process. So it's in your advantage to find a surrogate and match with a surrogate who already has health insurance that will cover the process. You also have to think about the insurance for the baby. Contrary to popular belief, the surrogate's insurance cannot cover your baby, because your baby is your baby and not the surrogate's. So she can't commit insurance fraud by claiming the baby on her health insurance or trying to get the baby covered under her health insurance. So that's something that you'll need to talk to your service professionals about. That's also another person who you will probably want to have on your team is an insurance professional. There are insurance agencies that specifically deal with the surrogacy process, and you can seek those out and talk to your other professionals about connecting you with one of those companies. But you want to make sure that you have insurance, or that you have a plan for how to insure your baby when your baby is born, or how to handle the medical expenses associated with not the surrogate, but with your baby, because they're two different patients. So, define the details, ensure that you're insured, and last but not least, the other theme in the term section I would say is prove your parenthood. You need to prove your parenthood, and I hope you can read my handwriting. At least you can hear me. So prove your parenthood. So there's two phases of the legal process around surrogacy. And I'm speaking specifically to the state of California where I practice. And states vary, and we can get into some of that at a later time, but states vary with regards to their laws around surrogacy. So note what I'm talking about now applies specifically to where I practice in California. But the legal process for surrogacy is split into two phases. First phase is what you'd call the contracting phase. So you're getting an agreement between you and the surrogate. You're memorializing your intent. The two parties are saying on paper exactly what they agreed to with regards to roles, rights, responsibilities, and all that stuff. Once that process is finished and the contracts are signed and notarized and the clinic understands that there's a contract and they move forward transferring that embryo, the surrogate gets pregnant, everybody's excited, and we make it through the first trimester. We hit week 12 or week 13 of the pregnancy. We still aren't finished legally. We have to get a court order that states unequivocally that you are the parent of the child that is going to be delivered by another person. So, when I say prove your parenthood, I'm saying that there's another court process that we have to go through in order to get what we call a parentage order. In California, we can make that happen before the baby's even born, so we refer to it here as a pre-birth order. But at any rate, it's a court order that's saying that you're the parent. That's what you will take with you to the hospital to make sure that you can have the right to access your baby. That's what will be sent to the Department of Vital Records to make sure your name goes on the birth certificate. So these are things that you want to make sure that you have a handle on with regards to terms. Again, can't dig into the details of them, but that gives you at least a 30,000-foot view of what you want to start thinking about so that you can start asking questions in this vein and make sure that somebody can answer these questions for you. So that's all I have for you today. We'll go back tomorrow and maybe look at the last T of the 3 T's to surrogacy, which is tact. And as always, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions that anybody has. You can always find me at my website or you can reach out to me here. But I hope everybody's having a great Tuesday. And talk to you tomorrow.